On your Friday episode of Locked On Raptors, it's Toxic Positivity Friday, Life Without Scottie Barnes edition. It's my greatest challenge yet, but I'm up for it, baby.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Friday, November the 1st. And I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors for 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the Hell website at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors, and you can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. Free to join. We'd love to see you there. Great place to come hang out, talk ball, talk all kinds of things, food, music, whatever it tickles your fancy. There are freaks talking about it in the Discord. Come become one of those freaks. It's much appreciated. Also, you can support the Locked On Raptors newsletter. Link also in the description of the podcast. It's free to join, and it is a wonderful thing. Into your inbox every single day. Original writing from me 5 days a week. Katie Heindel in there 4 times a week with national stories of interest. It's a great thing. And again, all for the low price of On the House. Go subscribe at the link in the description, and it helps me out big time. All right, today's show is brought to you by friends over at FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we'll get started here on your Friday edition of the show. Big weekend on tap. We will talk a little bit later on about the games against the Lakers and the Kings, which are far more about the stuff going on away from the court, I think. LeBron James in town. Is it the last time? Probably not, but there's only so many times you're going to see LeBron come through town again. And I think on a weekend where you're celebrating the franchise's history with Vince Carter getting his jersey retired on Saturday against the Kings, I think having LeBron come through town is actually pretty fitting for all of the thematics we'll see this weekend. We'll get into that later on. But off the top, I do want to spend some time here talking about the silver linings to Scottie Barnes going out of the lineup. We will talk about Immanuel Quickley and the hopeful return for him soon and what that might look like and why we get a really good showcase of what he's all about. And I will talk off the top about Jonathan Mogbo and the other rookies and young guys who are getting shots with Scottie Barnes out of the lineup. Look, I said a couple days in the show, I don't think there are silver linings to Scottie Barnes going out. I underestimated myself, right? Like, this is my brand. This is my corner. I'm the guy who finds silver linings even when things are terrible. Outside of the end of last season, there were no silver linings to be found with Jordan Nwora taking 15 shots a game. But I generally pride myself on, having fun watching the basketball team play the sport where they throw the round ball through the hoop for fun, right? And I think, thinking about it the last couple of days, it's not going to be great without Scottie. Obviously, it's a bad thing that he's hurt, and it sucks for him. It sucks that we get more delays in waiting to see what this team looks like at full capacity, and it's going to limit the amount of time we get to see that this year, probably, barring some kind of torrid run after Scottie comes back and they go and, move themselves up the standings and out of the lottery zone, which seems very far-fetched. But hey, who knows? Either way, I do think it's there are some things here with Scottie out you can get excited about, that you can kind of glom onto, that you can say, hey, this is a thing I'm looking forward to watching in Toronto Raptors basketball. And of course, here on Toxic Positivity Friday, this is where we put the blinders on. Still looking for horse blinders. If anyone wants to send them to me, shoot me a DM. Put the blinders on to all the bad going on in Toronto Raptors basketball and focus just on the good. And I do think the thing I'm most excited about out of the gate here without Scottie Barnes, we already saw it come into play in that first game. I'm so Jonathan Mogbo pilled, it's sickening. I'm really in on this guy. He's been super fun to watch. I am very into kind of see what else he has in store as he gets more comfortable in the starting lineup, especially once Immanuel Quickley returns and there's a little bit more space, a little bit more, stretch to the offense where you can kind of get by a little bit more with a Mogbo, Pirtle, very shooting-starved front court. I'm really intrigued to see what it all looks like once Quickley gets back in there. But I think it's the right call for Mogbo to start. I said this after the game on Wednesday, continue to think this now, and I think it's only going to be proven more right. Jonathan Mogbo is going to be given a chance here to kind of figure out what he can do with his ample talents, right? He's a guy who can't shoot, but can do just about everything else in some little way. And in some areas of the floor, he does them in big ways, defensively in particular. some of the numbers are absurd. I would encourage you to subscribe to the Locked On Raptors newsletter today as I ran through some of the small sample ridiculous figures representing Jonathan Mogbo's defense. Just a couple of quick nuggets from that. I mean, he's averaging nearly 5 stocks per 36 minutes already. We've seen the way that he moves his feet on the perimeter, the way that he can contest shots at the rim, do the whole thing. He just is this really interesting, versatile defensive piece who is the best guy to go and try to replicate what you're missing with Scottie Barnes. Not only is he one of the only Barnes-sized guys on the team, but he's also probably the only guy who can replicate having that sort of roaming defensive guy to clean up messes or prevent messes in the case of Mogbo on the perimeter, who I think maybe already is a more trustworthy perimeter defender than Scottie Barnes is, which is a crazy thing to be saying about a rookie, but it feels true. And without Scottie Barnes, with him in the starting lineup, we're going to see Jonathan Mogbo get to sort of test the bounds, test how far just his sort of natural talent can take him. And then he'll learn from that, right? There will be refinement and the sort of honing of the craft and all of that. But right now, he's just kind of out there trying stuff out in this big wide world that is the NBA as one of the most physically gifted guys we've seen on a Toronto Raptors roster in years. And I really can't wait to kind of see the results here as he's thrown to the Wolves, as it were, as a starter. He played 25 minutes in that game against the Hornets. I want to see him play 25, 30. Why not? Let's see him close games. Let's see him kind of get tested here. He's an older rookie. This isn't throwing Grady Dick as a 19-year-old into high leverage minutes right away. Not that the Raptors are going to have many high leverage minutes, quote unquote, over the next little bit. But I just think getting to see what Mogbo can do when sort of put to his max, tested to the limits with sort of this extreme burden on his shoulders for a rookie, it's pretty exciting stuff. And I do think, this week is going to mark the beginning of the Jonathan Mogbo impending Rookie of the Year campaign. Look around. It's not a very good rookie class. The guys at the top of the draft are either not playing. I think Reed Shepherd was the favorite to win the award coming in, and he has barely played at all and hasn't looked good when he has. I think there's sort of this like weird, what was it, 2016 was the year, maybe it was, where Embiid and Embiid and Malcolm Brogdon, I think, were the two guys vying for Rookie of the Year, and Brogdon won it because Embiid played like 37 games, and it was just sort of this bizarro rookie class. I think Michael Carter-Williams winning back in 2013. You hope Mogbo doesn't become Michael Carter-Williams if he wins the award, because that would be bad. But I do think you look back at sort of weird years, sort of down draft seasons where there aren't those instant impact guys. There's room to go make an all-rookie team, to fight for Rookie of the Year. And so far, Jonathan Mogbo looks as at home on an NBA floor as any of the rookies that we've seen around the league so far. And now he's going to have the platform to go and rack up the numbers that we know he can simply by being on the floor. And so, Jonathan Mogbo Rookie of the Year campaign begins today. I will be canvassing. I'll be lobbying. I'll be taking donations. I'll be cold calling you in the weeks and months to come. The Mogbo thing is just one element of it, right? We're going to see more Jamal Shed, surely, because this team badly needs shot creation without Scottie Barnes, and he's already proven he can be one of those guys who is like a really interesting shot creator. I think we're going to see Jacoby Walter potentially play tonight. It seems like he's questionable for the game. Maybe he's tracking towards playing. I mean, it's going to be probably a bit of a shock for him coming in after not playing in the preseason and missing training camp. But hey, throw him to the Wolves. That's what the season's about, I guess, is throwing your guys to the Wolves in like a nice benevolent way, not a way in which you're having them ripped to shreds for sport. No, you're hoping this is like a good thing to kind of become seasoned and tested, and you figure out what you have a little bit, and they can kind of, again, test the limits, see where those limits are, go back in the lab, go to the G League, whatever it might be. I think Jacoby Walter is probably going to be a type of guy like that, where it's a bit of a shock early on, and then maybe the G League helps him adjust and sort of get acclimated. But this is a continuation of what has been probably the brightest early spot of a season that has been marred by injury, bad luck. It's just the discovery of actually functional depth, right? Without Scottie, opportunities abound, as it has been for other guys with Barrett and Quickley on down the line, out of the lineup. You come into the season, like, I think the general consensus at the start of the year was the Raptors maybe have like 7 viable NBA rotation players. They're 5 presumed starters, plus Kelly Olynyk, plus Bruce Brown, and then Chris Boucher on good days. And then beyond that, there were massive question marks about who's actually going to play functional minutes on this team. And we've already seen through the opportunity afforded by injury, a whole lot of these guys pop and kind of establish themselves at the very least as viable guys who can play NBA minutes and not get embarrassed. Jamal Shed, Jonathan Mogbo, Ochai Agbaji obviously has been fantastic to start the season in his sort of streamlined, revamped role. Even Davion Mitchell, who's had its ups and downs, and I've not totally enjoyed the on-ball Davion Mitchell experience that much. He's proven, I think, that he can be a perfectly fine 8th, 9th, 10th man in rotation, and it's not a liability. It's someone who can provide like an interesting kind of look. He brings that defensive intensity and all that stuff. It's just nice, while Scottie is out, while they continue to go through this sort of false start to the season where the starting gun is long gone and they've still yet to really get off the line as they figure out, all right, well, who are we bringing with us for this race? I think it's been nice to see this sort of revealed depth that gives, I think, a lot of hope, not just for this season, but more so even for seasons to come about what this team can take shape like around Scottie Barnes and Immanuel Quickley and the rest of the guys they deem worthy of being the core long term. And we continue to see that going into tonight against the Lakers. Should be a ton of fun. We're going to come back on the other side. I do want to get into Immanuel Quickley, who I do think is going to be, when he returns, maybe Saturday against the Kings. We'll see, hopefully very soon, at the very least on the road trip when they go out west. Are we going to see Quickley kind of take the reins here? And are we going to see him push himself to his limits? That's going to be a very exciting part of the Scottie Barnes-less experience. We'll get to that coming up in just a sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place bets on the NFL, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And it's not just the NFL. You got all kinds of nightly NBA and NHL lines. You can go make MLB futures bets for next season now that the season's over. It's all there for you at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and the Locked On Podcast Network. Back at it here with your Friday episode of Locked On Raptors. Toxic Positivity Friday, baby. Again, the time where we turn our brains off. Forget about all the bad. Put it to bed. We're not thinking about Scottie Barnes getting hurt. We're not thinking about the defense being last in the NBA. Who cares? Not our problem right now. It's all about the rosy upsides. And there's been plenty of that through a 1-4 start. It's about as fun a 1-4 start as you could possibly imagine. Certainly more fun than the 1-4 start for, say, the Milwaukee Bucks, who are totally doomed and are going to trade Giannis to the Raptors any day now, right? That's Toxic Positivity Friday for you, baby. Okay, the next thing I want to get into here that is a potential silver lining of the Scottie Barnes injury is Immanuel Quickley getting to test his bounds with like a really scaled up role. We didn't really get to see much of it last year. Obviously, like, Quickley played well last season. I thought he picked up the point guard stuff really well. I don't think it's just like this innate thing that anyone can just kind of step in, have the finger on the pulse, control the ball, not turn the ball over, kind of have ball security while also setting the table for others, while also balancing getting your own offense. It's a difficult thing to do, and it's a reason why the best point guards are the best point guards, is they can kind of do all those things, compartmentalize all these things into one thing, and really just kind of be a guiding force for a team. I thought Quickley, with a truly wretched team context last year, especially after Scottie and Pirtle went out, really took to the role and gave me a lot of optimism for what it looks like when Quickley's playing with a more sensible basketball team. Obviously, team's not as sensible as it could be if Scottie Barnes is out of the lineup. He's a guy who around which everything orbits. He is the main dude here. And the interplay between Quickley and Barnes is a really important thing. We got to get some of that on tape at some point. They have to work out their chemistry. That's a big part of the plan and the goal for this season, one would think. But in the meantime, while Barnes is out, he's not out forever. Yeah, a month feels like an eternity right now, but it'll be December before you know it, and he'll probably be back out there doing Scottie Barnes things with, still 60 games, 65 games left to play. I think there is reason to feel, optimistic about what things can be once Barnes comes back. And a big part of that is I think Quickley is going to really get, again, thrown to the wolves. He's going to be fully tested as sort of what his capacity as a lead guard is. And it's kind of a no-lose situation right now if we're going to be keeping this in the toxic positivity vein, right? Like, he can come out And we get to see him in that lead role where he's going to have probably higher usage than he ever would when Scottie Barnes is healthy. He's going to be running 1 million pick and rolls a game with Jakob Poeltl, a guy who they've had very good connections with. Like that's a duo that I think you can work with. And I'm fascinated to see if they can kind of massage that duo and really turn them into a pillar of what this team can be. I talked earlier this week when it looked like for a second there against the Nuggets, we saw a bit of a glimpse into the future of the Raptors bench lineups where you saw that bench lineup on Monday against the Nuggets with Scottie and RJ and the 3 rookies, leaving room for just Quickley, Grady, Poeltl, plus like Mitchell Agbaji, plus whomever else, slotting into those bench lineups. Like, do they kind of stagger the looks that way and sort of have these 2 sets of starters who uphold these bench units? Like, I think we can get a look at that and sort of how viable that might be here in the context of like the starting lineup mostly. Like, this is going to be a real trial by fire for Quickley. And I think it's good. Like, I think it's the time to sort of see how can he do with a scaled up role. The expectation most of the time when guys step into new roles is their efficiency is going to fall off. Their usage is going to go up. It's just going to become more difficult. Quickley, I thought, did a pretty good job not having a massive efficiency drop off last year. It dropped off a little bit, sure. I think he was sort of league average-ish, slightly above as a scorer last season for guards. And before the move from the Knicks, he was super efficient because he was basically being asked to come in and cook second units and not really create for others, just kind of do his own thing. And so I think in this new role, in this sort of lead guard, he's not going to be heliocentric necessarily, but it might be close to something like that, where most possessions are flowing through him to kick things off when he gets back on the floor. We're going to see just what he can do as a number one. I would expect it's not going to go like super well. We've seen, say, for example, like Tyrese Maxey, who is much better than Quickley. I'm not trying to compare the two, but Maxey has even struggled so far this year and sort of taking the reins and being a number one. I would guess it's going to be challenging for Quickley. I don't think Maxey has a center like Jakob Poeltl to work with right now. I think Andre Drummond is just not as good as Poeltl, and certainly not as helpful for the developmental side of things as Poeltl is. And so, he's got an edge there that's going to help him out quite a bit. He's going to have the scoring of RJ Barrett to offset. He's going to have the gravity of Grady Dick to make life more easy for him. I really want to see some like guard screening stuff with Quickley and Dick, just weaponize both of their shooting. That's going to be a ton of fun. Like, there are going to be situations and sets in which you get to see Quickley operate as a number one. And then, once Scottie's back, he gets to settle into the number two. If he really overperforms in this stretch and he's super efficient, he's awesome. All of a sudden, you're like, wow, like that is a number two guy you can work with as he settles back into his more assumed role once Scottie comes back. And if he looks a little bit, it's a bit of a struggle case. If there's, it's a little bit too overextended, then there's no real cause for alarm because it's not the role he's going to occupy anyway. And we've already seen last year, I think, kind of a baseline for what Immanuel Quickley can do just as a lead offensive hub on a team that stinks, right? Like, I think, again, the context of last year was so bad, and yet he still managed to come out with like a 56 true shooting percentage. His usage was, 24%. He had a lot of burden on his plate. And I think we're going to see him that, once he's back, I think going to take on even more usage without Scottie Barnes. And I do think the true shooting has a chance to be better than it was even down the stretch last year. The team he's playing with now is way more advanced than the one he was playing with last year, right? Like last year it was sometimes RJ Barrett, Grady Dick still learning the ropes, and a lot of guys who are not in the NBA anymore. And I don't think we can overstate just how difficult a context that is for a guard to look good in. And he did look pretty all right. Again, the numbers, I think, speak for themselves. Per 36 minutes, 20 points, 7 assists, 5 boards. Again, he was pretty efficient. He shot 39.5% from deep. Like, all of that looked pretty good for him last year. And I think there's a real chance that we get to finally see him. It's such a bummer we only got that 14-minute false start to his season because he looked damn good in it. If he can carry that over and really kind of be this like lead guard with gravity and pull-up juice, that's going to set the table for the rest of this season once Scottie's back, and more so again, we're fact-finding about what the team can look like beyond this season I think everyone's pretty realistic about what the season holds, but a year from now, walking into next year with expectations, if you get some tape here of Quickley for a month being the lead dude and performing well, that's only going to bode well for the future. And again, if he doesn't perform super well, if it is a struggle, if he is overextended, guess what? You got Scottie Barnes coming back to take on some of that burden. So there's no real cause for concern. We love win-win scenarios here on Toxic Positivity Friday. We're going to come back on the other side. We're going to get into the weekend ahead, a very celebratory weekend. I think it's going to be a super fun one. And LeBron James, Vince Carter, both coming through town, both key figures in Raptors history. And I think this is going to be, an absolute joy, even as we relive some dark times. Toxic Positivity continues coming up in a sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time, the best place to go buy tickets for the sporting events you want to go to. Maybe you want to make your way down to Scotiabank Arena for the Raptors and Lakers tonight, or for Vince Carter night on Saturday. I believe the tickets are cheaper right now for the tickets to the Vince Carter night than they are for the Lakers game, because Lakers fans are maniacs. So maybe you don't want to be around a bunch of Lakers fans tonight. That's fine. You can go and be there Saturday to watch Vince Carter's number 15 get raised to the rafters. And Game Time Picks will help you filter out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All you got to do is download the app. You can sort of toggle through all their wonderful little features. You've got the all-in pricing. You toggle that feature on. You know exactly what you're going to pay when you get to checkout. There's going to be no surprise fees sprung upon you. You get the view from your seat. You get the lowest price guarantee. No reason to not go and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Well, it's game time, of course. Wrapping things up here on your Friday, your Toxic Positivity Friday. And we go now into a weekend where I think the results are kind of the furthest thing from my brain, which is a great way to operate if you're trying to be toxically positive about a basketball team that doesn't really get results. I think it's just like a really nice bit of serendipity that LeBron James is coming through town the same weekend Vince Carter is getting his jersey retired. Of course, DeMar DeRozan will be there with the Kings on Saturday as well. That's going to be super cool to see him back in town for the Vince Carter thing. A very celebratory, very nostalgic weekend, probably full of lots of purple jerseys, dunk montages, the whole 9 yards. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to be down there to just kind of take it all in. There's been this sort of running joke among some of the Raptors media folks that this is like the last weekend that anyone's going to care about the Raptors for the rest of the year. I hope that's not true. I hope my just beaming rampant optimism has helped kind of make the experience of watching this not very good basketball team a little more fun, and you want to stick around and be part of it all year. But yeah, this is going to be one of the marquee weekends of the year for the Raptors. And look, I know the Lakers are like a meme. I know we're all sick of the Lakers. I know the Bronny stuff is exhausting, but man, it's pretty cool anytime LeBron comes through town. That's never going to not be cool to me. He is the best player of his generation, arguably the best player of all time. We're not going to have that boring ass conversation today, but on the weekend where the Raptors are celebrating their history, I do think it's going to be fun to reflect a bit on the Raptors' relationship with LeBron and the role he's played in the franchise's history as well, right? This is a weekend where we're celebrating in Vince Carter, not always the best part of Raptors history, right? There's a lot of dark stuff when it comes to Vince and how it ended and all of it. And I think when you're sort of looking back on 30 years of a franchise, like 30 years is a long time. And for much of it, the story of this franchise was the things that went right and then went oh so wrong, right? You had the Vince Carter, or even just going back to Damon Stoudemire, right? Oh, Damon Stoudemire, this incredible rookie. Wow, I can't believe they got him. And the Grizzlies got Bryant Big Country Reeves with their first pick. This is thrilling. He wins Rookie of the Year. And then he wants out because the Isaiah Thomas drama and all that stuff. He gets dealt to the Blazers. Kenny Anderson doesn't report. And, really nice, fun thing turned to dust. Vince Carter comes in, is one of the faces of the league. He's the antagonist of Like Mike. He's winning dunk contests. He's on national TV, dropping 50 burgers. He is one of the faces of the post-Jordan NBA. Things seem on the uptick with the Raptors. And then injuries hit, bad front office decisions hit, the Julius Erving gate of it all, where Vince wanted Julius Erving and they went and hired Rob Babcock instead. They draft Rafa Arujo. Tough stuff, right? The Vince Carter thing went from, oh my God, the franchise is here. This is going to be amazing. Look at all these new fans that are coming around, to a pretty quick plummet to, this is a disaster. This sucks. And oh no, we're mired in years of being the Toronto Raptors. And then you get the DeMar and Kyle era, right? Where it's super fun. That's the best basketball the team's ever played. It's sustained success compared to what the Raptors have had in the past, like winning 50 games every year. That's you don't turn your nose up at that when you're the Toronto Raptors in the mid 2010s. And all the good vibes get snatched by LeBron every spring. And it just like is this hill they can't climb. Look, I don't think there's any shame. And this was my line throughout all of this time where I kind of forged my it's fine toxic positivity brand was, yeah, you lose to LeBron James. That's what's supposed to happen. You're not going to like overcome that colossus of a guy all that often. It's pretty hard to do. And there have been plenty of teams that have had nightmare runs of not being able to beat LeBron James. There's no shame in being one of those teams. And in fact, it's kind of a badge of honor in a weird way. And I do think like it did set the table for the Raptors to trade DeMar DeRozan, to go get Kawhi Leonard, to go and win the NBA championship. Like LeBron is a very obvious part in Toronto Raptors history. And in the theme of toxic positivity Friday, is it fair to say that like LeBron is responsible for the Raptors winning the championship because he beat them into submission so much that they went and had to go trade for Kawhi Leonard and end the DeMar Kyle era because LeBron was this mountain they couldn't scale? Like, do you give him a ring? Yeah, maybe you do. Like, he is an immovable part of Toronto Raptors history. He's etched into it all. And I just think it's like a nice bit of thematic symmetry that these two pillars of the NBA, Vince more so of Raptors history, LeBron of obviously NBA history, but these two guys who have a really like intrinsic effect on how the course of Raptors history has gone over 30 years, the good and the bad. I think it's pretty cool that both guys are coming through town and we get to watch them both, we're not going to watch Vince play, although, man, they should have Vince dunk at halftime or something like that. That'd be sweet. Trampoline dunk for Vince. I'm going to try to the game ops, folks, when I get there tomorrow. That'd be lovely to see. But, you get to see LeBron in action. He's almost 40. You never know how many times you're going to see this again. This could be the last, right? Like, even if he's around next year, he's not always healthy. Like, he's had injury stuff. Take it while it happens and enjoy it and savor it because LeBron is amazing and Raptors fans know that more than anybody else. Am I kind of in sort of a perverse way hoping the Raptors do like a montage of LeBron owning their asses? Kind of. Am I sick? Absolutely. But again, without all of that, without LeBron drinking the fake beer on the sideline and spitting the ball in Serge Ibaka's face while draining endless threes, and without him saying, I've had many adverse situations in my career, and this is not one of them, after the Raptors evening up the conference finals in 2016, after all that ownage, and the buzzer beater after the big OG shot in game 3, the miserable end to game 1 of the 2018 second round. Like, after all of that and what that led to, the joy, the release that led to, the amount of like how gratifying the whole championship was because of all of the failures that had come before it that LeBron James was like directly involved with. I think there's like reason to kind of celebrate in a weird way, right? Like, maybe I'm strange. Maybe I am too romantic about this stuff, and they lost the game, so you should be mad about it and hate LeBron forever. I don't think I can get there, man. I think it's just winning a championship has changed the perspective on so much of what came before, of what the 30 years of the franchise have been. It's all just one big, really interesting arc of a story to me now. And LeBron is one of the main antagonists of that. And I think it's cool that this weekend we get to celebrate Vince Carter while also remembering the guy who took their lunch for half a decade and forced them to make a move so extreme that it won them a freaking championship. That's Toxic Positivity Friday, where let's recap. Jonathan Mogbo is going to be all rookie, or be rookie of the year. Definitely make all rookie. Maybe win rookie of the year. We can quibble about the odds on both. Immanuel Quickley going to take the leap as a lead guard guy, and LeBron James beating them a whole bunch in the during the 2010s is actually good. I feel like we've checked our boxes, hit all of the things we're supposed to hit here on Toxic Positivity Friday. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. We'll be back again tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow's the weekend. We'll be back again on Monday for a full recap of the Lakers and Kings games, and of course, the Vince Carter jersey retirement, and hopefully a return of Immanuel Quickley. Fingers crossed. Maybe we see Jacoby Walter play for the first time You can also go and check out the Locked On Raptors newsletter, where, as I teased a little earlier, I talked about Jonathan Mogbo today and why I'm so excited to see him start for the next little bit here, presuming they keep on starting him, which hopefully they do. And I went into more depth on some of the crazy ass numbers he's putting up as a rookie on the defensive end. It's pretty nuts. Tyrese Maxey really helping to juice some of these numbers. All the guards he's played juicing his defensive field goal numbers. If you're a guard trying to score on Jonathan Mogbo, don't try to score on Jonathan Mogbo, I think, is the takeaway from today's newsletter post. So subscribe, link in the description of the podcast. Again, free to join both the newsletter and the Locked On Raptors Discord. So many ways to talk to me or hear me or read my words. Maybe there's an oversaturation of me, but hopefully not. Over-Sean-turation? Shut up, Sean. We're going to end the show. We'll be back again on Monday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the ceremony. Enjoy the dunk montages. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye. Nope.